Hello, it's Brian Shard, Leverage and Lean. Today is Monday, which means it's Macro Monday, and I can't think of a better way to start out your week than being more efficient and effective on your computer. And the best way to do that is use our latest macro. What kind of macro we posted this morning? Let me show you. Alright, this is the macro we're dropping this morning. This is the Outlook AutoSave Attachments macro. This macro helps you save email attachments. So if you're frequently getting them and then frequently saving them to your computer, this is a great way to automatically save them to a place you can access them quickly. Now there's multiple variations of how this Outlook macro works. You can actually save attachments from emails you select. That's even multiple selections that you make. You can loop through your entire inbox and find email attachments to save, or you can watch all incoming received emails and then save attachments that come from them. Regardless of what variation you use, you're going to get an attachments folder automatically created to your desktop. This attachments folder will work as the primary home for these attachments unless you decide to change that folder path within the code. Now these macros are going to save all email attachments that they find, but you can limit by customizing the VBA code to look for specific criteria. Let's say the sender, the file types, the subject maybe contains certain words that you then want to save, or even a specific category set on emails. I recommend this if you're seeing that too many attachments are being saved and you only know there's a few that you get reoccurring that you want to be automatically saved. Now I'll also show you in this video how to take this macro to the next level and automatically call it off your Outlook calendar with the calendar reminder macros. Alright, if you've yet to see these macros in action, I highly recommend watching this See It in Action video to get a quick look of what all these macros do. Now I've split out this page into 3 segments of code. This is the code for autosave attachments by selected emails. And then if you work your way down, you can see that this is the code for the emails in your inbox, and it'll actually loop through your inbox, saving all those attachments. And then even further down, this is the code you're going to need in your Outlook session to look for incoming emails and then find attachments to save within them. Now, as always, if this is your first time using VBA, you need to activate the Developer tab, update your macro security, and set up references for Leverage and Lean macros. Now, typically in these Macro Monday videos, I walk through each one of these steps showing you how easy it is to do this, but for the sake of time, check out last week's Macro Monday video and see how to do this in Excel. It's very similar. I have other resources out there to show you how quick and easy it is to do these 3 steps. But I want to dive right into this code and what it's actually doing. So let's navigate into Outlook and navigate into Visual Basic from the Developer tab. And if I open Visual Basic, I've actually already created the module with 2 variations of this code, the Autosave Attachments selection code, and then also just below it, the Autosave Attachments inbox code. Now it's really easy to paste this code into Visual Basic just by navigating back to my website, and then you can simply double click between these code lines and the physical code itself to select all the code within this segment and then copy and paste into Visual Basic. Now let me show you how to set up your Outlook session to start looking for received emails and then finding the attachments within them. Navigating to the Outlook session, you can view the code. Now you can see in my Outlook session, I've got a lot of things going on, and if you've yet to use with events, they're always going to end up at the top of the Outlook session. Now the line of code you really want to reference and get out here is this with events here. And I have so much going on in my Outlook session because I also have my Outlook calendar reminder macros out here as well, and I'm going to show you that towards the end of the video. But at the bottom of this session, I have the code needed for the rest of this macro to work. So you have your application startup session, and what this does is when Outlook starts up, it's going to look and then determine the inbox that it's looking for received emails, and then using the item add, it's going to check every single email that comes in, and I'm looking to see if the attachments within that email are greater than 0. So an email attachment does exist, and then you're going to call the autosave emails received macro, and that is just down here. Now I've mentioned before, these macros are going to save every single email attachment that they find. That is, unless you start to put in some criteria to narrow them down by sender email address, category, subject, or words within the subject field. You can even narrow things down further by looking for the file type extension in this comment here. Alright, let me show you the AutoSave attachments by selection macro so you can see it walk through line by line. So I'm just going to go ahead and have Outlook in the background, and then what I'm going to do is then just select the emails that I want to have the attachments saved. Now you can see in this email here, and I'll reselect this, this has multiple attachments and it does not matter. It is going to loop through then from an email all the attachments within that email and then save them to a created attachments folder. So let me show you this by starting to walk through this macro with F8. We're going to quickly jump and identify the user and the folder path of where your desktop is to then create from this code here that attachments folder. If one exists, we're not going to create, we're just going to reference that's already available. And now we're going to start to identify the emails that are selected and then ensure that any attachments counted, we start to track that number. So then for each email in the selection, we're then going to set and look for the email attachments within that and then start to loop through and find the emails to start to save. And then it's going to continue to say within one email, if there's multiple attachments, let's save all those attachments. And then once all the attachments have been saved, it's then going to jump to the next email. And then we're going to work our way down and then determine and fire a message box saying, have any attachments been found and then saved? And if not, you're going to get a message box that says nothing has been found, so nothing has been saved. And then this macro is going to finish. And there it is. And let me show you the new attachments folder that got created on the desktop. So here's the attachments folder that got created and then all the attachments saved within the emails that were selected. Alright, so now what I want to show you is how I plan on using these macros. So what I do is I use the Outlook calendar reminder macros to automatically call macros off my Outlook calendar, and it's really easy to set up those macros. I have a link on my website of how you can install these macros, and then what you can do is in the subject field actually enter in the action call, and then followed by call, enter in the title of the macro you want to call, and you recall in Visual Basic. And what you're going to have to do with this macro is save it to a class module titled scheduled macros. And what this macro will do is when this appointment reminder is fired, this macro will be called and then run. And the location field does not matter when setting up this appointment. The category does. You are going to want her in the Outlook category. It's not worried about the color. I just like to use the color as a nice indicator that it's the Outlook category, but it's really just looking for the text Outlook. Now the reminder is extremely important. This is when the macro is going to fire, so you want to ensure your appointment time and then when you set up your reminder is appropriate so the macro runs when you want it to. And then you can also set this up reoccurring. This is what's really great about these Outlook calendar reminder macros. Alright, for the sake of this video, I'm going to kick this out 6 hours and then save. And once this appointment reminder is fired, you get the message box saying that email attachments have been saved to the attachments folder because the macro looking for attachments in your inbox has run. You can see in our attachments folder there are more attachments that have been saved. Now instead of having these macros set up to just save every single attachment that they find, what I plan on doing is actually setting a category on the emails that I know will have attachments and I want to have the attachments saved. And an easy way to do this is leverage the Outlook rules. You can navigate to File and then go down to Manage Rules and Alerts. And then within the rules and alerts, create a new rule to apply for messages received. And here is where you can start to break down what emails you want to then look for attachments and then what specific criteria you want to set. You're going to want to make sure that you have set which has an attachment, and then you can start to say has specific words in the sender's address, maybe there's specific words in the subject, and then after setting the criteria by clicking these links here, you can then move on and fire an action, and what you want to do is assign it to a category. Then you can click the link to the category and then create a link that is titled Attachments. You can choose any title for the category you want. This is just the title I plan on using to then know when I have a category set in an email. When I run these macros, that is the category that I'm looking for. Now after finishing out of these rules, the final thing to do is then set specific criteria within these macros to look for that category when looping through your inbox. It's really easy to do just by navigating back into Visual Basic and then looking for this code line here with all the criteria set. And then you can simply update it to look for the criteria that matters. In this case, the email category is attachments. So now with this updated and leveraging the Outlook calendar reminder macros, I'm going to run this macro frequently throughout the day or just weekly, depending on how many attachments I decide to look for, and then ensuring those emails that are received have an attachment category set on them. Those emails that I care about that have an attachment will just sit there in my inbox with that category attachments on them, and then when I decide to run the macro looping through my inbox to autosave email attachments, they then will be saved to that attachments folder or a specific folder path that I identified just by updating this code line here. So why I choose to run macros off my Outlook calendar is I can control when they fire, so they're not firing during meetings or maybe when I'm presenting, and I can also control how frequently I want them to fire. Now I always set up additional custom buttons to fire the macros on command because sometimes I maybe am out for the day, I've deleted my reoccurrence just for that day, or at a certain point I just want those macros that maybe I didn't include in the criteria for the category, so I will be having buttons for the selected variation and the inbox variation to save attachments when I need them. Alright, so if back on the website, if you go all the way down to the bottom of this macro page, I have a customized section going over just some of the code lines you're going to want to reference in these different macro variations. If you want to update the folder path, if you want to look to the criteria to ensure you're finding only the macros that you want to save, you can also look to the file type extension to only save certain files based on their type, and then the message boxes. You may want to exclude these. I highly recommend excluding them if you're going to use the received email variation because you'll be getting that message box too frequently for every email that comes in with an attachment, or you can leave them there. Removing them just prevents an additional click. It's nice to see them for a while to ensure things are happening, but once you feel comfortable that the macros are working the way you want, you really don't need to see those anymore. Alright, well that's all I have for this Outlook autosave attachments macro. I absolutely want to know what you think of this one. Thank you so much for watching. Stay awesome. Thank you so much for taking time to view this video. I really do appreciate it. If you want to start using the macro seen in this video, I have a link in the description. If you could do me another big favor, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Stay updated on any new videos that I'm posting. Like us, follow us on all of our other social media channels, and as always, stay awesome.